Shalom Aleichem. Morning. Welcome to our visitors, viewers from TorahAnytime.com. A little Parshas Matos, a little Parshas Masei, and the 3 weeks. We start with Parshas Matos, but we start actually with something general. How many mitzvahs do we have in the Torah? 613. Sure? You counted them? Did you count them?
I've read them.
How many derabanan?
How many?
Derabanan. Rabbinic in nature.
What? In the Torah, would they be 7?
7. All the brachos, Hallel, Purim, Chanukah, Eruvin, Tilas Yadayim. So together, 6, 13, and 7. It's not so early in the morning. 6:20. 6:20 Gematria, Keter. Crown. The crown a Jewish person wears is the 620 mitzvahs, Deraisa Derabanan. Great. What is the hardest mitzvah to fulfill from all the mitzvahs that we have? And we have thousands of mitzvahs, Derabanan, thousands. What is the hardest mitzvah to fulfill? Kibud Av V'em. Why? So be nice to your parents. Your parents are nice, they're not so makpid. You are nice. What's so hard?
You wanted to now say you've not yet reached the level of Esau to
Maybe in the level of Hidu. But who says it's hard to fulfill? Be nice. So hard to be nice to your parents. So 8 days, wear a nice big smile. Make sure somebody's right next to you, tells you jokes the whole time, gives you good food. I think you'll be able to do it. Sleep a lot. You'll be able to do it. True? But what's the hardest mitzvah in the world? Chiddush. The mitzvah is in our parsha. The Gaon Mivilna says Simcha throughout the 8 days. The Chassam Sofer says something else. And what he says is mamish unbelievable. The Chassam Sofer in Chelek Vav in Likutim in Simen Nun Tes writes. He writes a tshuva to his Talmud, and he writes, "You should know, my dear Talmud, ani hirharti." I was thinking about this my whole life. And I was wondering if there's any person who's actually able to fulfill this mitzvah. A pasuk that is mentioned in our pasha. The pasuk says, "Veyitem nikim me Hashem umi Yisrael." Be clean in the eyes of Hashem. Be clean in the eyes of Yisrael. Says the Chassam Sofer. Perek Lamed Beis, pasuk Chav Beis, 32:22. Lev, the heart of the matter. Says the Chassam Sofer, it's not so hard to be clean in the eyes of Hashem. Make sure you get up really early, learn, daven 3 times a day, eat only badats and the best hechsherim, not bagats, badats. Make sure you do everything right. What's so hard? But how can a person be clean in the eyes of Klal Yisrael? Why? Says the Chassam Sofer, lo yimalet. It's almost unavoidable that there's some people sitting somewhere in a bar, that's his language, and they're speaking about the tzaddik. You know, Reb Chaim is, once they do that, he did not fulfill, be clean in the eyes of Klal Yisrael. And therefore he says, I think that's the reason Shlomo HaMelech wrote a pasuk, En Adam tzaddik ba'aretz asher ya'aseh tov v'lo yecheta. There's no one that doesn't sin. Why not? Why not? There's a person who sits and just wants to do good, and does all the mitzvahs. Why does Shlomo HaMelech says, no one escapes a sin? Why? Because if somebody spoke not so good about you, you now didn't fulfill the mitzvah Ve'isem Nekim Hashem Yisrael.
But if these are people not looking to Chapsechut, they're always looking for trouble, to blame somebody.
That's the Chiddush in the Chassam Sofer. He's talking about people who are sitting in the bar. He's not talking about people tzaddikim. He's talking about people in the bar. Who cares what they think? But once the pasuk says Ve'isem Nekim, you should be clean. Me Hashem umi Yisrael, that means Klal Yisrael, that means even those people sitting in the bar. And that's just a startling Chiddush. However, I have a Sefer Hasidim. Sefer Hasidim comes a little before the Chassam Sofer, because this is a Rishon, Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. A Sefer Hasidim in Simen Taf Reish Chav Vav says, look at that pasuk. Ve'item nekim me Hashem me Yisrael. What's the mem doing there? Mi Yisrael and not Kol Yisrael. from those who are the believers and not from the non-believers. In other words, if the Michiganis want to speak negative about you, no problem with you. We're talking about those people who are tzaddikim. If you cause them to say something wrong, then you have a problem. In fact, who wrote Lecha Doidi? Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz didn't write just Lecha Doidi. He wrote a few other things. And one of his svarim is called Shoresh Yishai. And that is commentary on Megillas Rus, for Shavuos. And there he says, he proves it from Boyaz, and he says, even though in Masechet Shkalim in Yerushalmi it says that there is a source from the Torah, from the Nevi'im and the Ksuvim, that a person has to make sure that he's clean in the eyes of Hashem and Klal Yisrael, and that's the pasuk from the Torah is this pasuk from our Pasha. However, we're talking about Brios, we're talking about people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them Mada veHaskel. We're talking about intelligent, normal people. Not that he should be responsible for everyone, and he should be also, has to be Yoitze, this obligation, from a fool, from a person, that person that sits in the bar and speaks negative about everybody else. According to the Shoresh Yishai, Shlomo Alkabetz, according to the Sefer Hasidim, we don't have a problem, but according to the Chassam Sofer, is a tremendous, tremendous Chiddush. Let's go now to Baba Kama. Beginning of Baba Kama. There are 4 Avois Nezikim, and their names are Shor, Bor, Baba Kama, Shor, Bor, Mave, and Hever. I know what the shor looks like, an ox. I met it last time I went to the zoo. I know what the bor looks like because I saw one in the middle of the street. Hever is fire. Every Motzei Shabbos I meet it when I do Havdalah. Great. Shor, bor, hever. What is Mave? Machloikis. Shmuel and Rav, the first 2 pages of Baba Kama, argue whether Rav holds it's an Adam, he is the Av Nezikin, or according to Shmuel, it's a Shen. Easy way to remember it. Shin. Shmuel is a Shen. Shin. And Rav holds it's an Adam. I have a question. Can we be a little provocative here? We have a head to be provocative. Baruch Hashem. Who comes first? Rav and Shmuel, the Amoraim, or Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the author of all the Mishnayos? A Tana? Who comes first? Tana, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. So tell me, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, if you hold like Shmuel, that Mave is a Shen, why didn't you write? There are 4 Avos Nezikim: Shor, Bor, Shen, and Hever. And if you hold like Rav, that Mave is an Adam, so why didn't you write? There are 4 Avos Nezikim: Shor, Bor, Adam, and Hever. Why cause us to be mefalpel 2 pages in the Gemara to break our heads to figure out if Mave is really Shen like Shmuel or Adam like Rav? Kind of chutzpah question. The truth is, we would like to ask this question many times in the Gemara. Why do we have to go back and forth, shakla v'tarya, for half a page, for 2 pages? Just tell me the bottom line. What is it? Is Mave a Shen or is Mave an Adam? You know why I feel comfortable to ask this provocative question? Because it's not my question. It's the question of the Rema Mipano, Rema Reish Mem Ayin. Reb Menachem Azaria of Pano, about 450 years ago. A man who wears 2 hats. Most people do not wear those 2 hats. He was the greatest poisek in his generation. He was the greatest mekubal in his generation. Normally, you're either a great poisek, you're either a great mekubal, but you're not both, but he was both. Wrote many, many svarim. So he wants to know, why didn't Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who came first before Shmuel and Rav, just tell us what it is? What's the connection to Parshas Matos? The end of Parshas Matos, the pasuk says that the sons of Reuven built all kinds of cities. El Ale, and Kiryadaim, and Baal Me'on, Musavot Shem, Ve'et Sivma, a city by the name of Sivma. Do you know where Sivma is? Did you ever see it on the map? Who cares? They built a city called Sivma, Shkoyech. Says the Rema Mipano, and only he can tell us a thing like this because he knows what goes on upstairs. Sivma is one of the cities of Edom in a direct aerial line from Beis Hamikdash. There's a lot of Avodah Zorah there, and it spreads all the koyach of Avodah Zorah. Sivma is Rashi Tevois, Shin Bet Mem Hey, Shor, Bor, Mave, Hever. And when you learn the Arba Avois Nezikim, you shut down the koyach of the tuma to break through and to go and expand and go all over and to go Khalila to Beis HaMikdash. So Rabbi Nossi didn't want you to know what he holds Mav'e is an Adam Moshe because he wants you to break your head. He wants you to be misfalpel and to learn the two dapim in Baba Kama, because when you do that, you stop the koyach hatuma from bursting out from the city of Sivma, and the koyach of a kedusha and koyach of a tahara coming from your learning spreads that koyach of kedusha and tahara, as opposed to chas v'sholom the koyach of tuma. And I think it's just fascinating, but it just tells us, it just revealed the curtain from a little tiny little thing that we learned in the Gemara. But this obviously you have to assume is true anywhere in the Gemara. We just don't have someone to tell us what this specifically does and what this stops and what this. There's so much in the upper worlds, in the bottom world, we don't know. We just need to learn because the Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded us, but we should be aware that there's so much koyach in our learning to stop the tuma, to stop terror attacks, and to spread kedusha and tahara. Sivma is one of the, in Perek Lamed Beis, Psukim Lamed Zayin and Lamed Ches, we learn about the different cities that Bnei Reuven built. All those names, Lichoira, very interesting. But who cares? Why do I need to know what the city of Sivma is? Shin, Beis, Mem, Hey, Shor, Bor, Mave, Hever. And that's why Mave is listed as Mave and not as what it really is, according to Rabbi Nossi, Adam or Shem.
May I ask where the insects come in those?
Where do what?
Insects.
Insect?
Yeah, that can bite you. Does that come in one of those four nizikim? Where's it part of one of those four nizikim?
They're not one of the four nizikim. In fact, there's a Yerushalmi.
The person has no control over those.
No, you have no control over a bore.
Yes, you do. Make sure if you dig one to cover it, and if you don't, you're responsible. That's what the Gemara says. Who's responsible when one opens the bore? Is it in my private domain? If it's in Rishus Harabim, you're responsible for creating a nezek, a damage to others. Whether it's you lit the fire and the fire crossed over from your field to someone else, if there was a regular wind or there was a very wild wind, unexpected one, those things that belong to you, the shore, your car, if you don't watch it and it starts rolling down the street and it hits into something, you're responsible. Shor, bo, mave, and hever, the avos nezikim that one may be responsible for.
So you think an insect is not under your control, that's why
Insect is not yours. However, there's a Yerushalmi that Eliyahu Hanavi asked Reb Meir. Eliyahu Hanavi asks Reb Meir, I think it's in Brachos Daf Yud Gimel in Yerushalmi. He asked him, why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu create insects? What's the benefit? What good do they bring to you? Which is interesting because Eliyahu Hanavi is asking, we would expect Reb Meir to ask Eliyahu. Eliyahu is asking Reb Meir. And Reb Meir tells him, at the time that Klal Yisrael don't behave the way we're supposed to behave, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at these insects and he says, if there's no real usage for them in the world, yet I keep them around, Klal Yisrael, there's a real serious benefit for them to have them around, I'm not going to keep them around. So it comes that the only reason that you are here is because of those insects. So you should better be makir toiva to those insects, not nezek, not a damagers. They're the ones keeping us around.
they do a lot for nature that we don't understand.
That's true. An ecological chain, of course.
So one shouldn't kill an insect?
The pasuk says, "V'rachamav al kol ma'asa." We should be merciful like the Kodesh Baruch Hu, walk in His ways. The eighth positive mitzvah of the Rambam in his 613 count is v'halachta b'drachav, walk in the Kodesh Baruch Hu's ways. And if He is merciful upon all His creatures, we should be the same. But that means when you see an insect in the street and it doesn't bother you, why would you go around killing it? If it bothers you, if it poses some kind of a danger to you or to others, of course you should be the first one to killing it. It's a mitzvah. So it depends.
You see an insect, but it's coming towards you. You shoot it away or you step on it?
Are you in your house and it really is bothersome to you, or is you in the street somewhere very far away and you can just continue walking?
There's insects.
So bizarre to Beis HaMikdash.
So do I
Get rid of it. If you're at tzaddik on the highest level, you'll just somehow sweep it away and take it out, throw it out. If you don't have the time to do that, it's bitul Torah for you. You can get rid of it in any other way you see fit. What's that? A nice laundered word. So in this parsha we learn we have to keep our words. Vows. Keeping a word, extremely important. There were people in a city, a small city, that the mikveh stopped working. They needed to build a new mikveh. So they didn't know what to do. Nobody had enough money to sponsor the mikveh. There were some rich guys, but they weren't in the parsha. So they went to the Rebbe. They went to a Hasidic Rebbe, Reb Shalom of Kaminka. And they go to him and they explain the problem. They said, the mikveh is not working anymore. We have serious problems. We need a new mikveh. What do we do? So she says to him, aren't there any rich guys in your town? He says, there is one guy who's really, really rich. But he's so rich, and yet he is so stingy. Not shy to take anything from him. So the Rebbe says, you know what, I'm going to come to your town for Shabbos. And let's see if we can do something. He came over for Shabbos. Motzi Shabbos, everybody comes to say goodbye to the Rebbe. And by Motzi Shabbos, he already learned a little about this rich guy, who apparently lived in a palace. But the shlom bayis by this guy was oy vey izmir, terrible shlom bayis. Fine. So the rich guy comes in and asks for a bracha. He says, you know, wishes farewell to the Rebbe. And he says to the Rebbe, I'd like you to give me a bracha. The Rebbe says, what type of bracha would you like? And the rich guy says, I'd like you to give a blessing that my wife should die. That your wife should die? So what do you mean? He says it's hell. Living in my house is hell. She is a woman from hell. I want to get rid of her. Can you give me a bracha? She says, listen, I don't give brachos like that. I usually give the opposite. But I have an eitzah for you. Chazal teach us in Shabbos Lamed Aleph that if someone makes a vow and doesn't keep his word, his wife may die. So after being here all Shabbos, I understand that you guys in town need a new mikveh. Why don't you pledge to sponsor the mikveh, but don't fulfill your neder? This way your wife will die. So, I love this. It allows me to continue being stingy like I am, and it gets rid of my wife. Givaldik, shkoyach Rebbe. And he leaves. He figured by the time he comes home, his wife is going to be already in bed. She's sick, you know. She is 100% strong and healthy. 2 weeks later, she has her annual, and she's great, in great shape. And this goes on a week after week, and after 3 months, he runs back to the Rebbe and says, Rebbe, your eitzah doesn't work. You promised that if I don't go through with my neder, my wife will die. That's the words of Chazal. What went wrong? My wife is getting strong. Now she's lifting weights, heavier weights than ever. So Rebbe says, listen, the problem is, Chazal speak about one's wife. You treat your wife like a shmate. Chazal never spoke about a shmate of a person. They spoke about a person's wife. So the only eight says you have to come back home and start being nice to her. If you're going to be nice to her and treat her like a wife, the words of Chazal will apply. Then she'll die. What can you do? What can you do? So you have to listen to the Rebbe. He goes back home and he starts being so nice to his wife. Shopping for her. And taking her out to this and giving her compliments. It's mamish unbelievable. Shlomo Melech said a pasuk. Kamayim hapanim lapanim ken leva adam la'adam. When you're nice to others, others will be nice to you. It's a reflection. It's like looking in the water. Mele, his wife saw her husband is so nice. She became so nice to him. The shlom bayis was flourishing. It was unbelievable. A week and a half later, his wife becomes extremely ill. She's in bed, she can't move. This guy runs back to the Rebbe and says, Rebbe, I need a bracha. What type of bracha? That my wife should heal. What? You said you want your wife to die. He says, yeah, that was then. Things have changed. Baruch Hashem, we have amazing shlom bayis. But you wanted her to die. Not anymore. I need her to be healthy. She's unbelievable. We have shlom bayis. Rebbe says, listen, there's no eitzah for that, except for you to go through with your neder. The reason she's about to die is because you made a neder to help the mikveh and you didn't. So Chazal say, a person may lose his wife. But now that you want her to live, so just make sure you go through with your neder. pay for the mikveh. Your wife will be healed. That's what he did, and that's what happened. What's the remez for this? In Mikra Kodesh. Sefer Birkas Yitzchak says, the pasuk in Koheles, Perek Hey pasuk Daled. Tov asher lo tidor, mishetidor velo teshalem. It's better not to make a vow than to make a vow and not go through with this. We said in Shabbos, it's actually Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis, Chazal say, if one makes a vow, he may lose his wife and kids, because the Rashi Tevos Av, mishetidor velo teshalem, vow and don't make a payment, is mavet. Mi shetidor, mem, velo is vav, teshalem is taf. Rashi Tevos of those three words, mavet. Because if one chalila doesn't pay his nedarim, chalila mavet can come visiting. Once somebody came to Rabbi Zel Harif, and he said to him, I don't understand. Aren't the words of Chazal true? He says, of course. So Chazal promised that if one makes a vow and he doesn't fulfill it, his wife dies. He says to him, I make a lot of vows and I don't keep any. How come my wife is still healthy? So Rabbi Zel Harif said, what do you think? HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give you a prize for not keeping your vows? For someone, that's a punishment, so his wife dies. Somebody who's expecting his wife to die, she doesn't die. The Chida writes the same thing. The Chida in Choymas Anach in Mishlei Chav Beis, in Rosh Hashanah Daf Vav Amud Aleph in Petach Enaim, two of his Sfarim, the Chida writes the same thing. One who expects his wife to die is a tipesh, he is a fool, that's his language, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give prizes for those who don't fulfill their nedarim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes them, and therefore his wife will remain, if that's what he's looking for, is that she's died. She's actually going to stay alive and well, but he's going to be punished with a different punishment. That's what the Chidah says. How important it is to keep our words, make sure we use our mouth properly. Sefer Kavayasha writes that there was once a woman sitting with her friends, and they were joking around, making comments, all kinds of wrong things. And one of her friends told her, what are you going to do when we go upstairs after 120 and they're going to ask you, why did you say this? Why did you do this? Why weren't you careful? And she says, I don't think there's a problem. When I go upstairs after 120, I'm going to say, sorry, I'm mute. Can't answer you. And she was joking. She thought it's a lot of fun. Says Sefer Kavayashar, Lo hayu yamim muatim. A few days later, she became mute and she remained mute for the rest of her life. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us an unbelievable kli, a vessel called a mouth. We have to use it properly. Divrei kedusha, divrei tahara, Torah mitzvahs, and chalila. Nothing else. In brachos, when you have to say a bracha over something, there's prioritization. Right? There's shalem, there's shiva minim. What if one has two fruits and one of them or none of them are from Shiva Saminim? They're both Shalem. Which one should he prioritize? Which one should he say the bracha for first? Both are not Chaviv, the one who likes better. Good. What if? This is a Shaila. The Mori Rabbi Reb Nebenzahl Shlita asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, what if you have two types of fruits? One you like better, the other a little less, but the one that you don't like so much is more nutritious. The nutritional breakdown is better, more vitamins, more minerals, less sugar. The other one you like better, it's sweeter. But which one should you say the bracha for first? The healthier one, or the one which is chaviv to you that you like better?
You like live to you.
The one that you like better. Who told you? Who told you? You have a raya for this? Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach begs to differ. And he says, eat the one which is nutritious first. Where does he get it from? Says Ibn Mitzal, from our Pasha. What a raya! Hard to imagine. Bnei Reuven and God asked Moshe Rabbeinu, we want to build fences for our sheep. Gidros Tzon Nivne Lemiknenu. We will create fences here. And the Arim Letapenu. And we will build cities for our youth. Moshe said, why do they do that? Because at that time, the chaviv to them was actually their sheep before their kids. Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, that's not the way to go. That's the wrong order of events. And therefore Moshe responds and says, Vayomer Moshe alehem Moshe, Bnu lachem arim letapechem. First build cities for your youth. The gidrot letzonachem, and then build fences for your sheep. You see, Moshe teaches us in his answer to Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven that the right prioritization is first the kids, and then your sheep. And therefore later they respond to him and they say, yes, we accept what you say. Tapeinu, nashenu, miknenu, v'chol behemtenu yusham. Our kids, our wives, our sheep, they will be there. You see, perhaps this is the source for Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that the chaviv is the best thing for you, and that should be the chaviv. In other words, when we speak normally about chaviv and shulchan aruch, we speak about two things which are not bad for you or good for you. It's just you happen to like one of them better, but they're on the same level of health-wise. But here we're speaking about something which is chaviv to you, but the other thing is a little better for you. The right prioritization based on this should be the one which is more nutritious before the one that you like better. A chiddush.
I always say about the reason that they wanted to take care of the sheep first, because it's a mitzvah that you feed your animal before you take care of yourself.
That's to feed it, not to build fences and to build a whole place for them to dwell before you take care of your kids. Your kids, hopefully, should come first.
The Rama has something you could find valid. You have the native. You have red wine, and then after you have white wine, is it more healthy? You have MItzva in the brios.
Right. But that's regarding a new bracha called the Tovah Meitiv, not which one you should prioritize by eating it first. Two people made a neder, bishas tzara, al da'as rabim. When you make a neder, the time of a tzara, al da'as rabim, there's no way to nullify it. You can't annul the neder. After they made the neder, we will give $1,000 to tzedakah because they had a major problem. They both became very poor. Is there a way for them to fulfill the neder when they don't have $1 to their name? Is there any way to help these people out? Reuven and Shimon were in trouble. They made a neder. We're going to give $1,000 to tzedakah, and there is no way to annul this neder. But they don't have $1.
They should do something to help the rabbin.
That's very nice of them. But can they made a neder, they're going to give $1,000. Helping the rabbim is very nice. When one steals from someone and doesn't know from whom he took, he has to do tzorchei harabim. A neder means you have to give $1,000.
Start working on it. It doesn't have to be done today. It has to start working on getting on it.
They're 99 years old. I wish them well, but 119. You know what you wish a guy is 120th birthday, right? Have a nice day. So how can they get out of this? And how do you exactly want to pay back the gemach?
Take the same attitude people take when they vote for Chatanai.
So you're very close to what the Ben Ish Chai says. Torah Lishma, Simen Reish Chaf Vav, Torah Lishma finds a solution for these two people. It's Reuven and Shimon. They have a friend. His name is Levi. Says the Torah Lishma, the Ben Ish Chai. Levi should lend Reuven $1,000. Now Reuven has $1,000 of his own. Give tzedakah to an ani. Which ani? To Shimon. Shimon receives the money. Reuven fulfilled his neder. Finished. Reuven is good. Shimon now has $1,000. Great. He should now give tzedakah to an ani. To whom? To Reuven, who doesn't have. So now Shimon fulfilled his neder. Reuven now has $1,000. Give it back to Levi, who lent you the money. And they both fulfilled the neder, and they both were yoytze the nedarim and returning the halva. And he learns it from a Mishnah in Nazir Yud Aleph, and that's a tremendous chiddush.
But that works only for the money, for other than that.
They made a vow of giving $1,000. We found a way for them to do it, even though they don't have $1 to their name.
They would give a vow to $1,000 to give to something that
To an ani.
to an ani.
To an ani.
You get $1,000 to build a shul, then it wouldn't work.
That's going to be a problem.
So Reuven, at the end, Reuven had $1,000.
Reuven received back from Shimon as a tzedakah because he doesn't have anything, and now he gets $1,000. He owes those $1,000 to Levi. He borrowed money from him. Give it back to Levi. Ele masei bnei Yisrael. Masei bnei Yisrael. Why are they called masei bnei Yisrael? Says the Al Sheikh HaKodesh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want Klal Yisrael to get stuck in the desert and travel for 40 years. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a trip which is 11 days from Chorev in 3 days because he wanted Klal Yisrael to enter Eretz Yisrael fast. But their complaints and their sin extended their stay in the desert. So they caused it to themselves. Therefore it's called Ele Masei Bnei Yisrael. You caused those traveling to yourselves, and that's why it's called Masei Bnei Yisrael. That's what the Al Shara Kodesh says. A riddle. Big Day Kehuna. How many are there? 8. Is there any person in Tanakh whose name is like one of the Big Day Kehuna? If you want a remez, in one of the parshas of tomorrow, Matos and Masei. Want a easier remez? In parshas Masei. Ephod. Who is he? Not Ephon, Ephod.
I know.
Libnei Yosef. Mate Bnei Menashe. Nasi. Who's the Nasi? Chaniel ben Ephod. It's like the backwards apron that the Kohen Gadol wore, and you get 3 points for that one. What is the first GPS? Nobody would leave the house today without Waze, right? What is the first GPS system in the world? When was it invented? Ananei Kavod. Does it say on it? Please key in. Don't write when you're traveling. How do you know that was a GPS system?
There's no directing where they were going.
You have a source?
Yaakov Avinu, when he had the dream, and he ended up in the Beis Hamikdash.
Kafza lo haderech. Maybe he didn't know where he was headed.
When it says that.
That means they encamped and they traveled, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, go, camp, go, camp. They did. What's the GPS system? What guides them in the right direction? Says the Yerushalmi, Eruvin Perakei Alach Aleph, Uvamidbar mi haya mechaven lahem et haruchos. What was their GPS? That literally is the question of the Yerushalmi. Amar Rab Acha, Aron haya mechaven lahem es haruchos. The ark was the first Waze in the world. That's the answer of the Yerushalmi. Tremendous chiddush. Who goes to the city of refuge?
Someone who kills
Unintentional killer? Can it be an intentional killer that goes to the city of refuge? Intentional killer that goes to the city of refuge? No?
We all go, and then you have a Beis Din to decide if it's an intentional killer or...
Why they all go? You go to Beis Din. If he's an intentional killer, he gets capital punishment. If he's an unintentional killer, he goes to the city of refuge. And yet, I'm asking, can there be an intentional killer that goes to the city of refuge? An intentional killer, not a suffix. Chiddush. Rambam. Rotzeach u'shmiras hanefesh perekei halacha yud aleph. Listen to the language of the Rambam. There is already a person, an unintentional killer, in the city of refuge. Is he allowed to leave the city?
No.
What if he did? Yatsa chutz letchum ir miklatoi bishgaga. Unintentionally, he was wandering around thinking divrei Torah, and he left the border. He left the city. Anyone who kills him, kol hahorigoi, whether it's goyel hadam, his relative, whether it's sh'ar adam, goyle al yadoi, the person who kills him has to go to the city of refuge. That means even it's intentional. If he killed him within the confines of the city, how go betoch ir miklatoi, afilu goel hadam, harei ze neherag alav. So then even if it's the relative, the goel hadam, he will get capital punishment because when he's in the city of refuge, one is not allowed to kill him. So that's a tremendous chiddush from the Rambam.
The city of refuge didn't have like Gedarim.
It has a border, but the gate was open.
It had a border. It was like a prison. What was it? It was no. I'm saying.
What a prison?
No, I'm saying.
In yesteryears, all cities had a wall. How do we know it? Purim. Where do you read the Megillah? In walled cities from the time of Yeshua bin Nun. Cities have walls. Protect themselves. Eruvin. Walls. It's not a prison. It's just a way of protection of the city.
So there was no security system around it.
Why should there be?
No,
You want to make sure you live, don't leave.
Certainly, you're protecting these people that the God Adam shouldn't come and kill them.
He's not allowed to. You're suspecting kosher Eden to do wrong things. He's not allowed to.
He's going to get killed if he kills him.
What's it going to help him? Hopefully there's a police there inside. They're going to see him.
Isn't the God Adam allowed to kill the... If he comes out of the city, he's allowed to kill him. So why is he punished by going to the...
Because he left Bishgaga. He didn't leave intentionally. The unintentional killer.
He seems to know that. He sees
He sees a bad guy writing Chidush Torah and walking. You understand. Why did he leave? Because the Gemara just overtook him. Why is it that an unintentional killer has to go to the city of refuge? What's in there? Well, what's the idea behind it? These cities of refuge are the cities of the Levim. What's the Indian to go to the city of refuge? What was behind this? What was the Kodesh Baruch Hu as if thinking? What should they learn from the Levim? Says Rabbi Yosef. The last halacha in Hilchos Shmita v'Yovel in the Rambam. Perek Yud Gimel halacha Yud Beis and Yud Gimel the Rambam says, "V'lama lo zacha Levi benachlas Eretz Yisrael uvevizasa im eichav." Why is it that the Levim don't have a part in the land? They don't share like their brothers. Mipnei shehuvdal la'avodet Hashem lesharto ulehoiros derachav hayeshorim umishpatav hatzadikim larabim. Shevet Levi are the teachers in Klal Yisrael. They have to show us how it's done. They are to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's all they do. They serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Therefore, lefichach huvdelu midarkei ha'olam lo orchin milchama. They don't go to war like the rest of Klal Yisrael. Lo noichalim velo zoichin la'atzman bekoach gufan ela hem cheil haKodesh Baruch Hu. They are the unit in the army belonging to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. You learn from this that in the cities of Levims, which are the city of refuge, when a person goes around, is just soaks up the kedusha. There's no marketplaces there. There's no entertainment centers. It's kind of like one big yeshiva. You have the Levim constantly teaching Torah, and that's all they do. There's no entertainment. There's no marketplaces. When a person goes there, he is so elevated and he learns what a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants and a Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't want. That's the best place for a Rotzeach Bishgaga to be in order to change his ways, to be a little more careful next time. You see it also from Ma'aser Sheni. The Pasuk says you have to bring the Ma'aser Sheni to Yerushalayim. Why? Leman tilmad leyira. So you should learn to fear Hashem. How exactly by bringing Ma'aser Sheni to Yerushalayim do you learn fear of Hashem? The Sifri says, Gadol Ma'aser Sheni Shemevi lidei Talmud. How? Because when you go to Yerushalayim and you see everybody is involved in Divrei Torah, in Kedusha and Tahara, it affects the person. And this is for a person who takes Ma'aser Sheni. How long does it take him to finish all his Ma'aser Sheni, all his fruits? Talking about a few days. A person, an unintentional killer who's stuck there for many years, how much more so it will affect him. And with that, says Rabbi Yosef, you can understand another halacha. If the city of refuge has more, the majority of the people there are killers, eina koletes. You don't go there. It doesn't absorb new unintentional killers. Why? Because if the whole idea is to learn from the tzaddikim, from the Levim that live there, hopefully you're going to learn from the Levim. But if there's too many murderers there, there's nothing for you really to learn from them. And therefore at that point, it's not right for the unintentional killer to go to that type of city. Look for a different city, one which is saturated with Kedusha and Tahara, where the Levim show us how it's done, and therefore a person has to go there to, hopefully, to change his ways, to understand the value of a nefesh, of a yid, and hopefully next time he will be a little more careful.
Why is it possible that said that the Ger and Tosha, the Socon, should also come to the end in that case? Why do we want these people are non-Jewish, aren't they, as far as I understand?
It's great according to that. Because they will see what a city which is all to Hashem looks like. They will learn. The best way to learn, somebody who's again, comes from nowhere. He goes and says, wow, this is great. I want to be like them. So inspirational. Is there a better place for him to be? It's fantastic. Stami doesn't need to go. A person, unintentional killer. But even again, he can also visit.
In this sort of situation, who takes care of the family of the person who goes to the...
The family is also allowed to travel with him. And in fact, if he's the Rebbe, what happens? Who comes with him? He's a Rosh Yeshiva, right? Who comes with him? All the Talmidim come. They'll take care of him. And if he's a Hasidic Rebbe, hopefully it shouldn't happen. All the Hasidim will come. Don't worry, they will take care of him. And why are you worried? The mother of the Kohen Gadol anyways comes every Thursday night. She brings him chulent. Enough for Thursday night, for Friday, and for Shabbos. She buys him a new suit because she doesn't want him to daven that her son, the Kohen Gadol, will die. They're taken care of. A terrible Maaseh happened in Yemen. We're traveling out to Yemen about 14 years ago, the month of Kislev on a Thursday. A Muslim pilot, ex-pilot in the Yemenite army, goes to the middle of town and shoots and kills Rabbi Moshe Nahari Hashem Yikom Damo Zecher Tzadik Levocha. This man was 35 years old, a father to 9. When he was younger, he learned in Shivat Diskin in Yerushalayim. And this Muslim warned the Jewish people a month before. He sent a letter, if you don't all become Muslims like us, or leave, we will kill you. I'm the representative of the Mujahideen. And he signed his name, but for some reason his offer wasn't accepted by the Jewish community. So he came to the middle of town, in a nice famous square there, and he shot and killed Rabbi Moshe Nahari. Since it was done publicly, they couldn't sweep it under the carpet, and they took him to court. The judge said to the family, his wife, all his kids, his parents, Moshe Nahari's parents, according to the Quran law, there are two options. You choose. Either we kill the killer, or he pays ransom. Don't think it's going to be a big amount, but the family was extremely poor. Moshe Nahari was the only provider. He was a teacher. The family wanted to know, what should we do? Should we take the money? Or do we have to make sure we have to kill him? Goy el Adam. Does it apply by goyim? Aboy say, Shumaise. What do you say?
You will kill other people. He's on the spree. So this is, if you leave him alive, he will go and continue doing other things.
If you don't make sure to stop him by killing him, who knows? Tomorrow he goes with his gun and he's going to kill others. But the next time it's going to happen, the other family may say, kill him. Who says it has to be you? You need the money. Chayecha koidmin. The family is extremely poor. There's 9 miles, 10 miles to field. The wife and 9 children. They're going to kill him. And with what exactly do you want him to eat? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner tomorrow?
If they take the money and kill someone else, is somebody responsible for it?
I'm responsible for somebody else's Michigan activities?
We know that.
Not even a grama. He was already brought to court once. And they almost killed him. You think he would do it again?
So
Why do you have to worry about that?
He pays them off. He doesn't go to prison or anything. He just goes free after he pays them.
Yep. But you assume that he's not going to do it again because tomorrow the next family is going to have money and not going to be so nice like you. So he's going to be afraid.
How can we say he was not afraid to be in the public place? So how can we say he's going to be afraid?
We can't. But who says that's our prioritization? Why not worry about your kids? What's that?
They'll do it again.
Who told you? He didn't do it until now. It took him a month from the time he wrote the letter. But believe, tomorrow they may kill him for that.
Everybody else sees as well, meaning that if we let him go here, then they'll say it's okay, we'll do it again. Over here, maybe it will save other Jews as well.
He says the opposite.
It's the case of Gilad Shalit, where we let him free, and now we've got killers on the run that are killing other people. Was that halachically acceptable?
Good question. A discussion for a whole shiur, maybe 2 shiurim. But now we're talking about, can Goel Adam, does that apply to Goyim as well? And there's a chiyuv for you? Forget about prioritization. There's a chiyuv for you to kill the person who killed the relative, or maybe not. Maybe it's a mitzvah, only applies to Jews.
If it was a Jew, then it would be clear.
Lichoya. Does it apply bichlal today? There's no cities of refuge today. Is there a Goel Adam today? What do you say, Rabbi Pessin? Yeah, an intentional murder.
Take the money, get the Chumash.
But there's no capital punishment today. So get rid of the murderer
Take the money, get
And leave.
Mossad to kill him.
and get all the Jews out of there. So you're protecting them. Shalos Tshuvas.
Or have him killed and have the community help these poor people.
The community itself is poor, extremely poor. Shalos Tshuvas Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek, there are two Tzemach Tzedeks. Tzemach Tzedek HaKadmon, about 400 years ago, Reb Menachem Mendel Krochmel, and he studied in the Bach's yeshiva. He was a friend to the Taz. We're going all the way back 400 years ago. He was born 420 years ago. And there's the Tzemach Tzedek, Reb Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Lubavitcher, about 200 years after him, 200 years ago. So we call the early one Tzemach Tzedek HaKadmon to differentiate between the two. And he writes a tremendous chiddush. He says, of course, it's a mitzvah that applies also by goyim, not just by Jewish killers. What's the svara to say that you have to get rid of a Jewish killer and you don't have to get rid of a goyish killer? Can it be that the din of the goy will be easier and lighter than the one of the Jew? But that's a svara. He brings a proof. Chiddush, what a proof he brings. From Agada. Normally we don't bring to halacha discussion a proof from the Agada part in the Gemara. But he brings Agada. David HaMelech is going to fight with Goliath. What does he take with him? A sword, a knife, a gun. What does he take? Stones. How many stones? 5 stones. And how is that going to help exactly? That guy is protected with a shield. 5 little stones. Shkoyach. Asks the Medrash. If a stone is going to do it, so why do you need 5? 1 is also good. If a stone is not strong enough to penetrate through that shield, so how will 5 stones make a difference? Why does he need 5? And the Medrash says, David HaMelech took these 5 to revenge against 5 things. Goliath was cursing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 1 stone is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 1 stone was for Aaron HaKohen, because Goliath killed Chofni and Pinchas, the Kohanim. And another 3 stones to revenge for Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that Goliath was cursing their descendants. Says the Medrash, Aaron was a Goyel Adam for Chofni and Pinchas. Goliath says, don't worry, I'll do it for you. You see that it also applies to Goyim. He's going to fight Goliath as a Goyel Adam. Goliath is not Jewish. You see, he brings from here, from this Medrash Agada about stones, that it does apply for Goyim, and based on that, we should make sure to kill this guy who killed Rabbi Moshe Nahari. However, we can only do this on a condition that it's not going to awaken the hatred of all the Muslims against Klal Yisrael, and they're going to go shooting all the Jewish people in town. You have to consider that as well. You just looked at what this single murderer will do tomorrow. What about all his friends and family, everybody else in town? They're going to be upset that the Jews decided to kill him instead of taking the money. So if it's not going to cause the animosity of the Yemenite people around, so then we can do it. But Lemaisa, what happened is, not surprising, the court afterwards decided that this Muslim guy, El Abadi I think was his name, was not sane at the time that he did it. And they made him pay, I think it was like maybe $20,000, a joke of a sum of money, and they let him go. 3 years later, his wife, I think her name was Luaza, something like Luisa Luaza, she came to Eretz Yisrael, and shortly after his parents came to Eretz Yisrael, and that was the end of that Maaseh. And in this Parsha, Aaron HaKohen dies. In Parshas Chukas we learn that Klal Yisrael cried for him because he used to love peace and pursue it. Oyev Shalom ve'roidev Shalom. To what degree? How much did Aaron HaKohen love peace and pursued it? There's Masechta Kala, Masechtot Ktanot in Shas, Perek Gimel, Aleph, brought in Menoira Samaor as well. When Aaron HaKohen died, 80,000 boys called Aaron walked after his bed. 80,000 boys called Aaron because Aaron made peace between their parents, and once they had the next baby, they called him Aaron to honor Aaron HaKohen. Now let's do some math. If in 40 years in the desert, 80,000 little Aarons were born, that means 80,000 different families. You normally don't call your first and your second and your third and your fourth kid the same name. So it's 80,000 different families. 80,000 families divided by 40 years. That's 2,000 families that Aaron HaKohen made shalom every year. That's 5 to 6 families that he helped every single year. Every single day, no vacation days, no sick days, no personal days. Shalom between people. But the truth is, it's probably much more, because it doesn't take into account if you made shalom between a couple and then they had a baby girl. You're not going to call him Aharona. Or if they already had an Aaron in the family, you're not going to call him Aaron 2, Aaron Jr., and Aaron Sr. There was more than 5 to 6 families every single day that Aaron HaKohen. Now we understand a new dimension to what Chazal say.
Again and again also.
Maybe again and again. Oh yeah, no, it was so good what he did the first time, there was no need for that. Aaron was Oyev Shalom and Roidev Shalom and Mimele. That leads us to the 3 weeks, because that's what we need to concentrate on. Oyev Shalom and Roidev Shalom. So all the nations have a minhag. They celebrate days of Independence Days. Is a day that they finally were victorious. They won in battle. They gained their independence. No one points to the days of defeat. This is the day where we fell and we were destroyed and we lost millions of people. Why do that? That's an embarrassment. So because of that, they try to erase and rewrite history. We do exactly the opposite. Not only do we commemorate the day of defeat, Tisha B'Av, Beis HaMikdash destroyed, millions of people died, and we go out to Galus, we do Achana for 3 weeks. And it intensifies as we near this date. Why is that? Because all the nations of the world celebrate because I'm so great, I'm so successful, I was able to be victorious. So when I'm not successful, it's a tremendous embarrassment. But since we know everything that we have, success or failure, comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so we understand if we have success, we have to celebrate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help. If we have failure, we have to start understanding that there's something that we need to fix, something needs rectifications, and we need to do cheshbon hanefesh, and we need to do some introspection. There was a Yid that once came to his rabbi and says to him, I don't do Tisha B'Av. He says, why not? He says, after all, this is something from 2,000 years ago, 1955 years ago, not shaykh anymore. The rabbi didn't comment. A few months later, he saw him celebrating in Purim, dancing and drinking, and he's so happy. And he says to him, why are you celebrating Purim? That's also something from 2,000 years ago. So he tried to give all kinds of excuses. The rabbi told him, there's a pasuk. If you forget Yerushalayim and you don't mourn for Yerushalayim, tishkach. Who's Yemini? Mordechai, Ish Yemini. If you don't participate in the morning for Tisha B'Av, you have no way to participate in the celebration for Purim. Chazal say one who mourns for Yerushalayim will, in MItzva, really soon celebrate the Simcha of Yerushalayim, but one who doesn't has no part in the Simcha as well. So do we mourn for the physical structure that we lost? The truth is today we have more impressive architectural structures than Beis HaMikdash. You have to assume today with the advancement in technology, there are very, very impressive buildings out there. So what do we mourn for? Beis HaMikdash was created in order for to be a dwelling place for the divine. The pasuk says, "Ve'asu li migdash v'shachanti betoicha." Shachanti is a language of Shechina. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "I will dwell." It doesn't say betoicho, in it. It says betoicham, in them. In other words, when the Yid makes room for the Shechina in his heart, it dwells there. But when the Jew does not make any room for the Shechina, it does not dwell there. It is removed. It goes away. So it comes out, not in Tisha B'Av itself came the destruction. The destruction came before that. We don't know exactly what date it was, but it happened when the Jews decided not to make room in their heart for the Shekhinah to dwell. Therefore, when Nebuchadnezzar was very arrogant and said, I destroyed the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Bas Kol from Shamayim in Sanhedrin Tzadi Vav Amud Beis comes out and says, Shoite, you fool. A burned sanctuary you burned. Eitzim ve'avanim shavarta, kemach tachun tachanta, you ground flour you ground, sticks and stones you broke. In other words, the Shekhinah was already removed. And that is the Avelus. The Avelus is for the lack of place in our hearts for Hashras Shekhinah. The lack of intimacy, the lack of connection, the lack of open and revealed love. That is what Beis HaMikdash represented. We say lack of open and revealed love because there is love. There's tremendous love from Ribono Shel Olam to us. Hashem sobs and Hashem weeps for us in exile, even more so than we do. But this is a hidden and concealed type of love. That's what Sefer Charedim says. Rabbi Tzakutner made a famous song from it. Bilevavi, Mishkan Evne. You want to build a sanctuary, you have to make room in your heart for Kodesh Baruch Hu, and then the Shekhinah comes, Beis HaMikdash is built. So we know there's no Avelus for Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos. 3 weeks during the weekdays, but not on Shabbos. And why not? Says the Shlah HaKodesh in Maseches Tainis, a tremendous thing. The Avelus itself is the building of Beis HaMikdash. And since we know building Beis HaMikdash does not override Shabbos, you don't build Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos. Mimele, since your mourning is the building of Beis HaMikdash, you can't mourn on Shabbos. The Sam Sofer interprets a pasuk in Tehillim. Tehillim Kuf Mem Zayin pasuk Beis. Boine Yerushalayim Hashem, Nidche Yisrael, Yechanes is Lashon future, Asid. Boine is Lashon. Does it make sense? The pasuk really should say, Yivne Yerushalayim Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will build soon, speedily in our days. He will build Yerushalayim. Why do you say Boine? Says the Sam Sofer. In 3 places in Shas we find Rashi and Tosfos, Sukkah Mem Aleph or Shana Daf Lamed, Tosfos in Shavuos Daf Tesvav, Beis HaMikdash Hashlishi, She'anu Metzapin Lo. That's the language of Rashi in Sukkah Mem. Asid Leired Banui Umeshuchlal Min Hashamayim. The third Beis HaMikdash that we anticipate will come down from Shamayim. Sheneemar Migdash Hashem Koilenu Yadecha. The third Beis HaMikdash coming real soon from above. Banui Umeshuchlal. It's going to be built, and that's how it's going to be brought down to us. And who's building it? Says the Chassam Sofer, we are building it with our Avelus. The Avelus itself builds Yerushalayim. That's why the passage says, Boine Yerushalayim Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu right now is building Yerushalayim from what? From our tears. And then when it's ready, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring us down the house that we built. That's what the Chassam Sofer says. And that's very suitable for the Chassam Sofer because the Chassam Sofer, Erev Tisha B'Av, every single year, would cry, would fill up a cup of his tears and would drink it. Lekayem, pasuk in Tehillim Mem Beis, Haisali Dimasi, Lechem Yoimam Valayla. We're mourning for Beis HaMikdash, and I would drink my tears. That's the level of Avelus, and that was the Chassam Sofer, that's what he did. There was an editor of a Jewish Frum magazine, something, country magazine, something, Frum magazine, forget the name. He went around and he did a very interesting survey. And he asked a lot of people, if you were able to invite 3 people from our past, 3 Jewish people from our collective history, whom would you invite? You can invite them for dinner. And he got a lot of interesting answers. Some people said, I would invite my father. I miss him. I didn't see him in a long time. My grandfather. Others said, I would invite my Rebbe. It was an Adam Gadol. I miss him. Some people said, I would invite the Rambam. I would love to have dinner with the Rambam. Some said, Einstein, Professor Einstein. Others said, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And he got very, very interesting questions. A lot of people, a lot of questions. A lot of different answers. But he said the best answer that he got was when he asked this question to Reb David Feinstein, Zatzal, Reb Moshe's son. And he asks him, I can invite any Jewish person that I want from history? Anyone? He says, yeah. 3 people from the past? He says, yeah. Anyone. So I would invite 3 hungry Jews. 300 Jews! Brilliant! Why is it brilliant? Because all the other answers are all about me. Who wouldn't want to put on his resume, I once had lunch with the Rambam? Who doesn't want to have a picture in his album, hugging Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak on the other side? It's all about me. I miss my Rebbe, my grandfather. But David Feinstein polished his midas so much, so it's all about others, what I can do for others. And therefore his first response was, 3 hungry Jews. If Machloikes Sinas Chinam Lashon Hara destroyed Beis HaMikdash, thinking about others first is what's going to build the Beis HaMikdash. The Mashgiach Reb Chatzkel Levenstein once came to one of the Talmidim in a yeshiva towards the end of the Zman, the Kaitz Zman, before Tisha B'Av, and he says to him, he was makpid on him, and he says to him, I understand that you're organizing a trip, a tiyul, in Ben HaZmanim. He says to him, Rebbe, I'm not the organizer, I'm one of the organizers, a bunch of guys, and this trip is to Kivrei Tzadikim, and to daven, and we made sure to do it for Ben HaZmanim, but it's not going to conflict with the times of the yeshiva. So what's the kpeda? What's the problem? Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein told him, you should know a tiyul like this is a very, very healthy thing. It's very important. Every so often you need to do this. But you know what this is like? Imagine a family, all the brothers and sisters are sitting shiva because the parents died in a terrible car accident. So when they're sitting shiva, they're planning the great tiyul that they're going to take right after they get up from the shiva. You're now in the 9 days, and now you're planning the tiyul you're going to do next week? How is it possible that that's what you're occupied with? The Aderet, Rebbe Eliyahu David Rabinowitz Teomim, who was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. Interesting, Maisen. Reb Shmuel Salant was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim about 120, 130 years ago. And he was already very old. He was 91 years old, and he felt he doesn't have the koyach, and he needs somebody else to replace him. The Aderet, that's his nickname, Rebbe Eliyahu David Rabinovich Teomim.
I heard this story from Rabbi Dad from Monsey. This is good father. He told me that wasn't the case. The Kehila wanted to put him out because he wasn't able to costume properly. I think it was 100%. And he warned them. Well, you can tell us, but the real story is that the Kehila wanted him out because he was getting too old. Not that they didn't come from him.
I heard it from 2 Anashim Gedolim, and the fact that his grandson told you that, who says that's the correct way?
No, his son.
Who told you that's the correct version? Because I wasn't there. I heard it from great people. One of them is Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Didn't hear it from him personally, but he said this ma'aseh. Ne'emanim alai divrei Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. So Reb Shmuel Salant, the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, 91 years old, he feels he doesn't have any more koyach. He asked that they should bring somebody to replace him, and he asked that they go to Europe to bring the Aderet. The Aderet was the Rav in the Mir and in the Ponovich, not in the yeshiva in Bnei Brak and Yerushalayim, in the cities of Ponovich and in the city of Mir in Europe. They came to him and he agreed. He came to Yerushalayim. He was very young. He was 62 at the time. The Aderet was an Adam Pele. He wrote 120 Sfarim. Only 2 were printed in his lifetime. We have manuscripts of other of his Sfarim, and they are printed now. He came to Yerushalayim to become the chief rabbi, and he was. We have a letter that he writes back to his family in Europe. And he says to them, Anshe Yerushalayim, the people of Yerushalayim think here that they did a very big favor to me. They rented an apartment for me overlooking the Makom HaMikdash. And they don't know that every time I look out the window and I see the place of the Mikdash destroyed, it's shortening my life. Niba velo yada baniba. He prophesies and he didn't even know that he prophesied. He only lasted 2 years. And when he died, Reb Shmuel Salant was still around, and he eulogized him in his funeral. So we go to the Koisel, like he did. Well, we take pictures and we hug and we shmooze, big smiles. I'm at the Koisel! You look at the Koisel, apparently that's not the attitude that we are supposed to have. It shortened his life. But the truth is, we do cry. We do cry. We know how to cry. When the neighbor buys a new car, why don't I have this type of car? But we need to cry for stones, not for cars. It's not true. We know how to cry for stones. When the neighbor gets a new marble floor or marble counter. But we need to cry for the right type of stones. And when we cry for the right type of stones, MItzva Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring us back those stones. During these 3 weeks, sometimes I think that we feel it's not so bad. It's not so bad. So you started last week with a fast day. So you take the pill, kalitzom, everybody has it, and some people actually say that it works. No. So now we can't listen to any music. Today, oh Hashem, there's a very, very sophisticated type of singing, vocals, without any instruments, and some poskim hold that it's okay to listen to, we can get by. The 9 days, you can't eat meat. Amazing, amazing soy meat imitations, and there's fish, and you can have as much pizza and as much ice cream that you want, and you can even have coffee in the afternoon. So what's so bad about that? Comes Tisha B'Av? No. So you take again the Kaleitzom or whatever pill that you guys use, and you sit in an air-conditioned environment, and you go to shul, which is air-conditioned, you come back home, and you rest, you take a nice little nap, you listen on the radio to the stories of the destruction, and you even have this nice padded, short chair, and it's not so bad. And you even have time after your nap to plan the vacation you're going to take next week. Then, Motzei Tisha B'Av, you come to shul, and you have some nice rogalas and burekas and a nice juicy watermelon and whatever else they give in the shuls. We went through it. Not so bad. Not so bad. In other words, we have a solution for everything. The problem is, we forget why were these limitations and restrictions given to us. Yebid, don't try to get through. To deal with the Khurban, we have to ensure there is no Khurban. And that is in our hands. How do we do it? We're finishing with this Maisa. After the Holocaust, the Babov Rebbe, Reb Shlomo Babov, goes to shul with his son. There's a guy who sits right out of the shul, right outside the shul, and he looks very sad, very unkempt. And the Babov Rebbe says to him, maybe you'd like to come to shul with us. Maybe you'd like to put on tefillin. Thank you very much. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm not into that. The Babov Rebbe tries again. Maybe you would like to be the chazan. The chazan? Oh, I like that. I can be the chazan in your shul? He says, yeah. They go in, and he allows him to be the chazan. A few days later, Shabbos. The Babov Rebbe again goes with his son Naftali, and they go to shul, and right outside the shul, they see this guy again, smoking cigarettes. The Babov Rebbe says to him, would you like to come in and again lead us in prayer, be the chazan for us? I can be the chazan? Excellent, shkoyach. And he comes in, and he prepares to be the chazan. Naftali, the Babov Rebbe's son, says to him, Tati, Daddy, Abba, whatever language you use, what are you doing? He's a Mechalel Shabbos Befaresya. A Mechalel Shabbos Befaresya cannot be the chazan. Why are you calling him Mechalel Shabbos? So what do you mean why? He's smoking cigarettes in the middle of the street, right outside the shul. So Mechalel Shabbos Befaresya. And the Babov Rebbe says, I don't think he's smoking cigarettes on Shabbos. Abba, you didn't see him! The Babov Rebbe looked at his son, and he says, you should know, he is not Mechalel Shabbos Befaresya. He is not smoking cigarettes on Shabbos. It's Hitler, Yemach Shemo, that's smoking cigarettes on Shabbos. It's the Nazis, Yemach Shemam, that are smoking those cigarettes, not him. He can be the chazan. Fast forward 50 years. A guy, long face, a long beard, looks like a nice chassid, comes to the Babov Rebbe and says to him, Rebbe, you probably don't remember me, but I'd like to invite you to my grandson's wedding, I want you to be the Mesada Kiddushin. What day is it? The Rebbe couldn't come. He says to him, I'll come to one of the Sheva Brachos. And he did. When he came to the Sheva Brachos, he saw 100 little kinderlach there, all with little payas. Look, just gorgeous, sweet little kids. And he says to this fellow, wow, what a beautiful mishpacha you have. Look at your children, look at your grandchildren. And this chassid says to him, Rebbe, these are not my children. These are not my grandchildren. Rebbe, these are your children. These are your grandchildren. It's when you said back then, Hitler is the one that's working on Shabbos. You brought me back to life. These are your children, these are your grandchildren. That's how we build the Beis HaMikdash. Shabbos Rabbi Pessin.